Dog barks at coffin during funeral. When a woman asks why the priest gets nervous, and what happened next will shock you. The hall was packed. The scent of flowers mixed with the aroma of candles created a heavy atmosphere, and the muffled sound of sobs echoed through the space. Alberto was a beloved figure in the town, and it seemed like everyone had come to pay their final respects. But amidst all the sorrow, Aurora, Alberto's dog, started doing something no one expected. She began barking, loud and strong. This wasn't just any bark, the kind you hear when a dog is seeking attention for something trivial. No. Aurora was desperate. Her eyes were fixed on the coffin, and she kept moving as if trying to reach something inside it. It was as if she were saying, "Hey, look here! This isn't right." At first, people tried to ignore it. Some shook their heads, assuming it was just a dog mourning her owner. "She's grieving, poor thing," murmured an older woman at the back. But as Aurora kept going, her bark started to bother people. Some began whispering, others shot irritated glances her way. "Someone get that dog out of here," shouted a man near the altar, clearly impatient. But before anyone could do anything, Aurora did something even stranger. She began scratching the floor, inching toward the coffin. It didn't matter who tried to hold her back, she struggled, determined. Father Gabriel, who was leading the ceremony, paused for a moment and cleared his throat, trying to regain control of the situation. "Brothers, let us focus on prayer and allow poor Aurora to process her grief," he said with a nervous smile. But Aurora wasn't interested in prayers. She was determined not to stop until someone paid attention to her. A little girl, around 7 years old, tugged at her mother's sleeve and whispered, "Mommy, I think Aurora's trying to say something." The mother simply shook her head, telling the girl to be quiet. But the girl's words lingered in the air. Because, as absurd as it seemed, that was exactly what Aurora appeared to be doing. And then, as if she knew she had everyone's attention, Aurora let out her loudest bark yet. A sound that silenced everyone. It was impossible to ignore. A chill ran through the hall. Some people looked at the coffin, others at Father Gabriel, who now seemed uneasy. And then came that feeling no one wanted to admit: something was wrong. What was Aurora trying to reveal? The silence in the room was almost deafening. Deep down, everyone knew that, somehow, Aurora was aware of something no one else could see. While everyone at the funeral was paralyzed by Aurora's strange behavior, Sophia couldn't take her eyes off the dog. Sophia was new in town, having arrived just weeks ago. She was the kind of person who couldn't ignore it when something felt out of place. And in that moment, Aurora was the most out-of-place thing she'd ever seen. Why is she so desperate? Sophia whispered to herself, watching Aurora scratch the floor near the coffin. Meanwhile, Father Gabriel tried to regain control of the ceremony, urging everyone to focus on their prayers. He seemed uneasy, but Sophia noticed something odd. It wasn't just irritation over the noise. He was sweating and seemed to avoid looking at the coffin. Sophia's unease grew. "This dog isn't barking for no reason," she thought. She looked around, but most people seemed uncomfortable, just wanting it all to be over. Is no one going to do anything? Determined, Sophia approached Father Gabriel as soon as the ceremony ended. "Father, why is Aurora acting like this? Don't you think it's strange?" she asked, trying to be polite yet direct. The priest gave a nervous laugh and shook his head. "My child, it's just a confused animal. They don't understand these things. She's simply missing her owner, nothing more." But Sophia sensed the evasiveness in his answer. He wouldn't meet her eyes and seemed in a hurry, as if wanting to end the conversation as quickly as possible. "Excuse me, but I need to tend to other matters now," he said, almost rushing away. Sophia wasn't about to give up. Something about the situation felt off, and she could feel it. Aurora, still restless, stayed close to Sophia, as if knowing she was the only one truly paying attention. "All right, Aurora, I'll figure out what's going on," she whispered, stroking the dog's head. As the rest of the people began to disperse, Sophia stayed, watching the coffin, Aurora, and Father Gabriel's strange behavior. One thing was certain: she wasn't going to let this go. Even though she was new in town, even though she didn't know Alberto well, Sophia knew something big was being hidden, and Aurora seemed to hold the key to uncovering it. With one last look at Father Gabriel, who hurried out through a side door, Sophia made her decision. She was going to investigate. If no one else was willing to listen to Aurora, she would. After all, sometimes the truth only reveals itself to those brave enough to seek it. Before we continue, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you love animals and enjoy hearing emotional stories about them. After the funeral ended, Sophia couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. Aurora, though no longer barking, stayed by her side as if she knew she had found an ally. Sophia's uneasiness grew every time she glanced at Father Gabriel. He seemed eager to leave, avoiding eye contact with everyone, especially Sophia and Aurora. As people began to leave, Sophia noticed the priest was sweating, despite the cool weather that day. He fidgeted with his hands, adjusted the collar of his cassock, and avoided conversations with those who approached him. When someone asked him more direct questions about Alberto, he deflected, saying it was a moment for respect, and hastily wrapped up the interaction. Sophia stood aside, observing everything closely. The more the priest tried to appear calm, the more obvious it became that he was nervous. But why was he nervous? She approached a small group of people still talking about the funeral. "Did you notice how strangely Father Gabriel is acting?" she asked. An older woman shrugged. "He must be tired, poor man. Organizing a funeral isn't easy." "But what if it's more than that?" "He seemed to avoid any questions about Alberto's death," Sophia insisted. But the group quickly dispersed, murmuring something about not wanting to get involved where they weren't needed. Sophia knew she couldn't give up. She decided to approach the priest again, who was now at the altar, adjusting some candles. "Father Gabriel," she called out, trying to sound casual, "do you know what happened to Alberto? Aurora seems so restless. Could she be trying to tell us something?" The priest, holding a candle, nearly dropped it when he heard the question. He quickly turned to Sophia, forcing a smile. "My child, don't worry about that. God watches over all of us, even animals. Let's allow Alberto's soul to rest in peace, shall we?" But his tone didn't feel calm or comforting. He was clearly uncomfortable. Sophia crossed her arms and stared at him. "Father, are you sure there's nothing more to this?" Aurora seemed very desperate. "Don't you think that's strange?" He sighed, now no longer hiding his irritation. "You're new here, aren't you? Maybe you don't understand how we handle things. It's best not to question what doesn't need questioning," he replied, this time almost as a warning. Sophia didn't respond, but something inside her ignited. He was hiding something, and the more he tried to silence her, the more she knew she had to get to the bottom of it. As Father Gabriel hurried out through a side door, Aurora let out a low bark, as if to say, "That's right, don't trust him." Sophia stroked Aurora's head and smiled. "I agree, Aurora. He's hiding something, and we're going to find out what it is." With that certainty, Sophia felt that Father Gabriel's nervousness was more than just discomfort with questions. It was the kind of nervousness of someone who has something to lose. After Father Gabriel's suspicious behavior, Sophia knew she needed answers. But where to start? Aurora seemed restless, tugging Sophia outside the church, as if saying, "Follow me." And that's exactly what she did. Aurora led her to Alberto's house, a small, simple building at the edge of town, surrounded by an overgrown garden. When they arrived, Sophia felt a lump in her throat. The house looked so empty, so abandoned. The silence was almost suffocating, but Aurora didn't hesitate. The dog ran to the door and began scratching, begging to be let in. Sophia, feeling the weight of responsibility, pushed the door open. It was unlocked. The creak shattered the silence, and they stepped inside. The interior of the house was exactly as Sophia had imagined, simple but full of personality. There were books scattered around, a pair of glasses on the table, and a family portrait on the wall. But what caught her attention most was a desk in the corner, covered in papers and an old typewriter. Aurora ran to the desk, wagging her tail and barking, as if she'd found something important. "All right, Aurora, what do you want to show me?" Sophia murmured, stepping closer. Rummaging through the papers, she found something curious, letters and a journal. The letters were addressed to none other than Father Gabriel. Alberto's handwriting was clear, but the words were troubling. He mentioned suspicious activities and spoke of something big happening at the church. In one letter, he wrote, "Father, I know you're involved. I need your help to resolve this before it's too late." Sophia's heart raced. She picked up the journal and began flipping through it. The pages were filled with notes. Alberto had been investigating something at the church, something dangerous. He mentioned missing money, unknown people coming into town, and the church being used as a front. But the strangest part was that the last pages were torn out, as if someone had tried to hide something. Aurora, beside her, kept looking at the journal, almost as if she understood its importance. "Aurora, I think Alberto knew something big. And it seems like it cost him dearly," Sophia said, feeling a chill run down her spine. The atmosphere in the house now felt heavier. Every corner seemed to hold a piece of the puzzle. Sophia knew she couldn't stay there long. She packed the journal and letters into her backpack, took one last look around, and left with Aurora by her side. But one thing was certain. Alberto had been in danger because of what he knew, and Father Gabriel had more secrets than she could imagine. Sophia quickened her pace, Aurora trotting alongside her, wagging her tail as if to say, "Now you're on the right track." With the evidence in hand, Sophia felt this was only the beginning. The answers she sought were getting closer, but so was the danger. After discovering the journal and letters at Alberto's house, Sophia knew she had to dig deeper into the story. The notes spoke of something suspicious within the church, and the only way to confirm it was to go back there. Despite her fear, Sophia didn't hesitate. She waited until nightfall, packed a flashlight in her backpack, and with Aurora by her side, returned to the place that now felt even more sinister. The church was empty and silent, making every step echo loudly through the hall. Aurora walked ahead, sniffing the ground as if searching for something. Sophia took a deep breath and began exploring, examining every corner and crevice. Alberto's words from his diary echoed in her mind. "They hide everything right under our noses." What did he mean by that? After a few minutes, Aurora stopped near the altar and started scratching the floor. "What is it now, girl?" Sophia asked, kneeling beside her. Upon closer inspection, she noticed a gap between the floorboards, as if it were a hidden door. Using an improvised tool she had brought from Alberto's house, Sophia managed to lift the wood. Underneath, she found a small metal box, rusted but still intact. Sophia carefully picked it up and opened it, her hands trembling with anticipation. Inside, she found something she hadn't expected: a bundle of cash, far more than anyone in that small town could ever possess, and a carefully folded map. Sophia held the map and unfolded it, noticing markings pointing to a location outside the town, in a remote area. "Aurora, I think we just found a big clue," she said, feeling the weight of the discovery. The money had to be tied to something illegal, and the map likely led to the place where this entire operation was taking place. Sophia put everything back into her backpack and looked around, making sure no one was nearby. But the sense of danger grew. She knew that uncovering this secret could put her life at risk. Even so, there was no turning back. Whatever Alberto had been investigating, Father Gabriel seemed to be at the center of it. And now, with Aurora as her loyal companion, Sophia was determined to follow the map and uncover the whole truth. As she hurried out of the church, Aurora glanced back, as if she knew that place held even more secrets. "Come on, girl," Sophia whispered, "we've got work to do." With that, the two headed into the unknown, unaware that they were about to find something that would change everything. Sophia and Aurora followed the map, their hearts pounding. The path was long and surrounded by dense trees, the kind of place no one stumbled upon by accident. The directions led them to an abandoned building hidden among the shadows of the forest. It was an old warehouse with broken windows and a rusted door. Aurora was restless, growling softly, as if sensing danger nearby. "Calm down, girl, we're almost there," Sophia whispered, trying to steady her courage. With her flashlight trembling in her hand, she pushed the door open, its creak sounding like a protest. Inside, the air was heavy and damp. The smell of mold and something metallic made her stomach churn. Aurora led the way, sniffing every corner until she suddenly stopped, staring at a staircase leading down to the basement. "There's something down there, isn't there?" Sophia asked, even though she knew she wouldn't get an answer. Aurora barked softly, as if confirming. Sophia took a deep breath and began descending, Aurora pressed close by her side. The basement was dark and cramped, illuminated only by the weak beam of her flashlight. And then she heard it. A low sound, like a groan of pain. Sophia froze for a moment. "There's someone here," she whispered. The groan grew clearer, and Aurora ran toward the sound, barking loudly. When the flashlight's beam finally reached the corner of the basement, Sophia saw something she would never forget. Alberto was there, chained to a wall. He was thin, pale, and visibly weak, but he was alive. "Oh my God! Alberto!" Sophia ran to him, her heart pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. He lifted his head with difficulty, his eyes filled with relief and surprise. "Sophia, you found me," he said in a hoarse voice, as if he hadn't spoken in days. "Hold on, I'll get you out of here," Sophia replied, examining the chains. Aurora licked Alberto's hands as if trying to comfort him. Sophia found a piece of metal on the ground and began working on the makeshift shackles. It wasn't easy, but after a few minutes, the chains gave way. Alberto almost collapsed, but Sophia caught him. "What happened to you?" "Who did this?" she asked, but he just shook his head. "We don't have time. They'll be back," he said, urgency in his voice sending chills through Sophia. "Who's they?" Sophia pressed, but before Alberto could answer, Aurora began growling again, staring at the basement door. Footsteps could be heard upstairs. Someone was coming. "We have to get out of here, now," Sophia said, helping Alberto to his feet. With difficulty, the three of them began climbing the stairs, Sophia's heart hammering with every step. She knew whoever was coming wouldn't be happy to find the basement empty. And now, the only thing on her mind was, how do we get out without being caught? As Sophia helped Alberto out of the basement, Aurora stayed alert, growling softly and watching the door as if sensing the danger closing in. The footsteps upstairs grew louder, closer. Sophia was breathing quickly, trying to stay calm. They had barely exited the basement when the warehouse's main door burst open. There he was, Father Gabriel. "You shouldn't have come here, Sophia," he said, his voice cold and heavy with tension. The priest, once seen as a respected and peaceful figure, now seemed like a completely different man. His eyes were locked on the group, especially on Alberto, who, though weak, tried to stand. "You should have left this alone," Gabriel continued, stepping forward slowly. Sophia positioned herself between Alberto and the priest. "So it's you, isn't it? You're behind all of this," she shouted, feeling anger boiling inside her. Aurora began barking loudly, as if she, too, wanted to confront the man who posed such a danger. Gabriel gave a bitter smile. "You don't understand anything, girl. I had no choice. They're above me, above all of us. It was this or, well, you'll never understand," he said, taking another step forward. Sophia noticed he was holding something in his hand, a piece of metal, perhaps a pipe. He didn't seem hesitant to use it. When Gabriel lunged, Aurora didn't wait any longer. She jumped in front of Sophia, growling fiercely and throwing herself at the priest. The impact caught him off guard, making him drop the object and fall backward. Gabriel tried to push the dog away, but Aurora was determined to protect her owner. Sophia, seizing the opportunity, ran to help Alberto. "Come on, Alberto! Quickly!" Sophia yelled as Aurora continued pinning Gabriel to the ground. The priest managed to shove the dog aside, but Aurora got up again, ready to attack once more. Sophia knew Aurora couldn't hold him off for long. With difficulty, she helped Alberto toward the door, but Gabriel was already getting back up. Before he could come after them, Aurora ran to the door and barked so loudly it seemed she was trying to draw attention. That's when the lights of a car illuminated the entrance to the warehouse. It was the authorities. While helping Alberto, Sophia had quickly sent a message for help. The police stepped out of the vehicle, armed and ready to act. Gabriel tried to run, but Aurora began circling him, blocking his escape. He eventually surrendered, raising his hands. As the officers handcuffed Gabriel, Sophia hugged Aurora tightly. "You're amazing, girl," she said, her voice filled with emotion. She looked at Alberto, who, despite his weakness, gave a relieved smile. They were finally safe. But Sophia knew the fight wasn't over. The truth needed to come out so everyone could understand the extent of what had been happening in their town. And with Aurora by her side, she was more than ready to face whatever came next. With Gabriel in custody, Sophia knew she couldn't stop there. Everything she had discovered, Alberto's diary, the illicit money, the map, and even the captivity, needed to be brought to light. The townspeople trusted Father Gabriel blindly, and the truth would be a massive shock. But Sophia also knew that if no one acted, it could all be covered up again. The next day, Sophia organized a meeting in the town square. She used the little time she had to gather the evidence and convince a few people to believe her, especially after seeing the condition Alberto was in. Aurora, as always, stayed by her side, looking as determined as her owner. The moment was critical. As the square began to fill, many were confused. "Why are we here? What happened to Father Gabriel?" were the questions echoing among the crowd. Sophia stepped onto a small improvised stage, with Alberto sitting in a chair beside her, still visibly frail. She took a deep breath and began speaking. "I know many of you respect Father Gabriel and won't believe what I have to say," Sophia began, her voice trembling but firm. "But he's not who you think he is." A murmur began to grow in the crowd. Some crossed their arms, skeptical, while others whispered among themselves. Sophia held up Alberto's diary and showed it to them. "This is Alberto's diary. He was investigating something very serious before he disappeared. He discovered that the church was being used as a front for criminal activities." Aurora, as if understanding the gravity of the moment, began barking, drawing even more attention. Sophia continued, now more confident. "They were using community funds to launder money for a trafficking network. Alberto found out and was silenced. Father Gabriel was at the center of it all." The crowd fell silent, stunned. Sophia then revealed the money she had found in the metal box and explained how the map had led her to Alberto, who had been held captive. Every detail seemed to take the breath away from those present. When Alberto, with difficulty, took the microphone, the crowd's emotions swelled even more. "I trusted Father Gabriel," he said, his voice weak but filled with emotion. "I tried to believe he was a man of God, but what I found was a man who only wanted power and money. He betrayed me. And he betrayed all of you." The murmurs among the crowd grew louder, some visibly outraged. An elderly woman shouted, "He always asked us for donations. And now we know where that money went." Another person added, "He used our faith against us." Sophia realized this was the moment to unite everyone. This isn't just about Father Gabriel. It's about protecting our town, our faith, and our community. We can't let this continue. We need to come together to ensure this never happens here again. The crowd erupted in applause and shouts of support. The indignation was palpable, but now there was a sense of unity. Sophia knew that by exposing the truth, she had taken the first step toward rebuilding the community. Aurora, by her side, wagged her tail as if she knew they had fulfilled their mission. But Sophia also understood there was still work to be done. The next step would be to ensure justice was served and that the town was never deceived in such a way again. After the meeting in the square, the police acted swiftly on the evidence presented by Sophia and Alberto. The diary, the map, the illicit money, and Alberto's testimony were more than enough to ensure that Father Gabriel and his accomplices were arrested. The news of the arrest spread quickly, shocking the entire town. A figure once seen as a pillar of the community was now handcuffed, being led away by the authorities. Gabriel tried to deny everything, claiming he was being framed, but the truth was undeniable. The money found in the church, the records in Alberto's diary, and the testimony of other witnesses dismantled any defense he could attempt. The most shocking revelation for the townspeople was that other local individuals were involved in the criminal network, including merchants who had been using their businesses as money laundering fronts. As the arrests unfolded, Sophia finally felt a sense of relief. Alberto, though still recovering, couldn't hide the gratitude he felt toward her. Aurora, for her part, seemed more at ease, as if she knew the danger had passed. But as Sophia looked out over the town, she realized the fight was far from over. Despite the victory, the community's trust had been shaken. People felt betrayed, not just by Father Gabriel, but by the entire system they had placed their faith in. That's when Sophia made an important decision. She wasn't going to leave. Even as a newcomer, she felt she had found a purpose in this town. With Alberto by her side, she began helping the community rebuild. She organized meetings to discuss how donations would be used transparently, helped establish committees to oversee church decisions, and even encouraged campaigns to support families most affected by the crimes. Aurora, of course, became a symbol of the town's resilience and courage. Children loved playing with her, while adults called her the four-legged heroine. The story of how Aurora helped save Alberto and expose the entire criminal network spread, bringing a sense of hope to everyone. Alberto gradually regained his health. He decided to transform his modest home into a community space where people could gather, talk, and support one another. Together, he and Sophia worked on this project, creating a place where faith and solidarity could grow without manipulation or hidden agendas. Over time, the town began to regain its strength. People started trusting one another again, and the sense of unity became stronger than ever. Sophia found a home there, something she hadn't expected when she arrived as a stranger. Aurora, always by her side, remained her loyal companion, reminding everyone that courage often comes from the most unexpected places. The town's dark past would never be forgotten, but it became a lesson about how the truth, even when painful, can lead to transformation. And now, with Sophia, Alberto, and Aurora leading the way, the town looked to the future with renewed eyes, more vigilant, more united, and, above all, stronger. Thank you for watching this video until the end. Don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts about this story in the comments.